Welcome back everyone. In today's video, I'm going to go over a question that I get a lot, and that is which modifier should I buy first? There are softboxes, beauty dishes, and umbrellas, and people are often confused about which one does what and which one they should buy in which order, and if they actually need one, both, or all of them. So that's what I'm going to answer in today's video. I'm going to compare all of these, show you what each one does best, and give you a clear purchase order so that you can make sure that you buy the right gear at the right time and you don't waste any money. All right, let's set the table. If you have a studio flash, a mono light, and you don't put a modifier on it, a modifier is just anything that you put on front of that flash that changes the character of the light. It could be a reflector, a softbox, an umbrella. We'll go into that in a second. You're going to have that bare flash tube emit its light, and it's going to go everywhere in the room. And if you're shooting in a room like this with a blue wall, that light is going to bounce off that blue wall, come back and hit your subject, and it's going to make them blue. So one of the reasons why we would use a modifier is to generally cause the light to go in a particular direction so it doesn't hit something like that blue wall back there. The next reason why we would use a modifier is to change the character of the light. So there's a general principle in photography, and that is the larger the light looks to the subject, the softer the light will be. Now, you've heard this probably maybe before explained as the larger the light source is relative to the subject, the softer it will be. But I find that to be rather confusing, so I always say the larger the light source looks to your subject, the softer it will be. So when we take that little flash tube that's on our flash and we shine that into an umbrella, it bounces around the umbrella, and then that becomes our light source, the whole umbrella. And that's a lot bigger than the flash tube, so that makes our light softer by having it be bigger. The other thing is when we put light into a softbox, it bounces around, goes through layers of fabric, and when light goes through layers of fabric, it tends to become more matte. But if you want something that's crispy and shiny, you could put your modifier into a metal reflector that's coated with silver or shiny metal on the inside, and that's going to have a lot of contrast and a lot of punch. And that light source, that reflector, is usually going to be smaller than that umbrella, and so that light is going to be crisper and higher in contrast. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about which modifier you should buy in which order. And the answer to that, the first one that you should buy, is simple. You should buy an umbrella first. The reason why is they're cheap, they're easy to use, and you'll be able to use them throughout your career. When I started out, my very first kit was two 30-inch umbrellas. I'd use one to brighten the room and the other to light my subject's face. I had the most basic gear imaginable. But decades later, I still carry umbrellas with me because they're compact, quick to deploy, and you can use them for a variety of purposes. There are two main types of umbrellas: shoot-through umbrellas and bounce umbrellas. Shoot-through umbrellas aren't my favorite. They spread light everywhere, like a hemisphere, giving you less control. Bounce umbrellas are much more useful. White gives you softer light, silver adds more contrast, and you can even stretch a diffusion cover over the front to soften them further. But in general, they're going to gather up all the beams of light and generally push them forward or push them in the direction they're pointed. A lot more than that shoot-through umbrella, because that shoot-through umbrella is really going to spread things out. The umbrellas also come in shallow and deep designs. Shallow umbrellas spread light broadly, while deep umbrellas are more focused with higher contrast, and that's because it pushes the light forward a little bit more than the shallow umbrellas, and that keeps it from bouncing off of the ceiling and the floor and the walls, all of which are going to lower contrast when that light bounces back into the shadows. I really suggest, though, that whichever variety that you choose, you buy a matching pair. And that's so you can use them to light a backdrop, for instance. I still use umbrellas as my main light when I need speed. They aren't the absolute best for lighting faces, but they get the job done, and over time you'll probably use them for background lights, like I mentioned, just as often as you do to light people. So, because of their affordability and their versatility, I recommend umbrellas as your first purchase. If you want to learn more about these modifiers, I created a deep dive video up here that you can watch next. Next up, softboxes. This should be your second purchase. They are in general a little higher quality, or they produce a little higher quality of light than an umbrella will. And this will be best when you're lighting a person's face. Their design is basically like a fabric tent that has usually a layer of fabric in the middle that spreads the light around, and then a layer of fabric on the front that spreads it around even further. And when light hits a layer of diffusion fabric, it causes it to spread in every direction. So softboxes aren't necessarily more directional than umbrellas, but they do let you use another accessory, which is a fabric honeycomb grid that you can put on the front of them. And this will generally channel the light so it moves forward rather than going in every direction. However, you don't always need to use a grid when you use a softbox. In fact, I rarely use them. One of the great things about using a softbox is that you can feather the light. And feathering means that you can point the light in front of your subject. Now, what happens when you light a portrait with the light feathered, like this example with Onika, is that it creates a more modeled look on the subject. You're also able to control the brightness of the background. Now, some people mistakenly think that feathering the light makes it softer on the subject. But when you have that light pointed directly at someone, like the light is at me right now, it is going to be larger to me than if I feather it. If I feather it, it's going to become smaller. And a smaller source is a harder source. It's just that feathered light tends to look better, in my opinion, because of that sort of modeled look that nice side lighting creates. Most of the time, your main light will probably be a softbox, but you'll also find yourself using them in almost every role around the set. You could use a rectangular softbox in order to create a catch light that's a reflection of the softbox in the person's eye that looks like a window. You could also use that same approach to put a reflection into a product that also looks like a window. A long, narrow strip softbox could be used to create a skinny highlight along a person's body, a bottle, or a glass. A smaller strip softbox could be used as a hair light boomed out over the set to separate your subject from the background. If this video is helping you learn lighting, there's something else I want to share with you, and that's my new book, The Photographer's Journey. I've been working on it almost non-stop for the last few months. It's a no-nonsense roadmap packed with lessons I wish I had on day one. Everything from setting up your camera, choosing lenses, and mastering the fundamentals of lighting. Then we move on to intermediate and advanced studio concepts, composition, color theory, and post-production. With over 250 pages and 50,000 words, it's a curated step-by-step learning path designed to help you grow as a photographer. It's available now as a digital download for only $99 at johngress.com/downloads. Grab it today and start improving your work right away. Beauty dishes are the third modifier type that I would like to suggest that you buy. They are fantastic, but they're not universal. They create a sculpted, focused light with crisp transitions and more bite than a softbox. That's magic on angular or younger faces and perfect for fashion or beauty work where you want the cheekbones to pop, but they're less forgiving on textured skin. And because the beam is more precise, even small posing changes can push your subject out of the sweet spot. The classic placement is directly above your lens and angled down at about 45 degrees. This creates butterfly or paramount lighting. Tilt it steeper around 60 degrees and you'll risk losing your catch light and casting long, unflattering shadows across your subject's face. There's a common rule of thumb. diameter equals distance. A 27-inch beauty dish usually works best or looks best about 27 inches from your subject space. In my own test, this guidance held true, though different faces may benefit from slight adjustments. Also, not all beauty dishes are created equal, so your particular beauty dish might have a different sweet spot. But I go into all of this in a deep dive video that I created about beauty dishes, and I'll link to it up here if you want to check it out. But let me go back to just summarizing it for you though. When it comes to size, small dishes do produce higher contrast than larger ones, and silver interiors are punchier while white interiors are softer and create more smooth highlights on the subject's skin. Adding a diffusion sock essentially turns beauty dishes into a small softbox, which seems self-defeating to me, so I wouldn't recommend it. Also, adding a grid can help keep the light off of an adjacent wall, but it reduces sculpting, which is one of the main reasons why you would use a beauty dish in the first place. So I wouldn't really suggest that you do that either unless you really have to. So beauty dishes have a specialized look and a narrower use case. So to wrap things up, start with an umbrella. They're affordable, flexible, and a lifelong tool. Then get a softbox. It's your universal workhorse with more control. Finally, add a beauty dish when you're ready for that sculpted, dramatic look. And if you want to learn about another common modifier, the 7 or 8-inch grid reflector, check out this video up here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell, and share this video with a friend. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.